My name is Brian McSweeney. I'm in a band called Matthew, and I have a pseudo-solo career that I'm pursuing at the moment. We're here in Chicago, and now I'm going to talk for a little while. I sing primarily, that's my thing. I play the guitar, I play the piano, in that order. Probably I'm a little better at guitar. I can play piano, play drums, lots of things really. Just about anything that I can get my hands on, I'll give it a shot. I've been playing since I was probably 10, maybe. My parents had a Southern gospel group when I was a baby. Before I was born, they had a group. I sang on their records when I guess I started when I was maybe 2. I remember being in recording studios when I was 2 years old. They would take me traveling all around West Virginia, the South. I'm from West Virginia, by the way. We sang at a lot of churches. I just fell in love with the whole process. Traveling, performing, recording. My parents were always playing Neil Diamond, lots of stuff in the car, so I was just kind of inundated with music as a very young child. I was in a Christian rock band called 7 Day Jesus. It was the first band that Matt and I played in, toured in. We were living in West Virginia, and our second guitar player in that band, was working at a college radio station in West Virginia. He was always on the phone with the producers, program directors, all over the country. He did a little Christian rock show, so he's always trying to score free CDs and posters and concert tickets from all his all his favorite bands, talking to the people at the labels. He sent a demo to someone at a newer Christian indie label, which is kind of funny to think of, like the smallest market there could possibly be in 1996, indie Christian music. But it was a small label right outside of San Francisco, Walnut Creek actually, called 5 Minute Walk. We ended up signing with them and just started touring in our parents' minivans, destroyed one minivan, blew up the engine. We toured for years, for 5 or 6 years, just had a blast. We were all 18 years old. We got another deal with a Christian major. It was owned by EMI, so of course the distribution was a lot better. Marketing, all that stuff. It was different though. The Christian indie label, it was the first time I'd ever even heard the word marketing. I was 18 years old, and I'm like, what, are we going to go buy some groceries or something? What is marketing? We were just completely oblivious to all that stuff. And we're pretty honest with our music. We were just, 4 rock and roll kids that did what we did. When we got the second deal, we got a little bit more into songwriting and crafting, production, stuff like that. We sold more records, but a lot of people, and I feel as well, that we maybe lost a little bit on the, what's a good word? It became a little more polished. It comes with the territory, a major label is they want to sell a lot of records. They want to make their money back, so it's pretty cool. There are a lot of different types of bands in Chicago. I've been here for about 7 years. I've really had a chance to see a lot of it. The community is very tight-knit. You see a lot of the same people at a lot of the different functions. I think there are probably more great bands in Chicago than there are people that actually come out and support the different niches, whatever the word is. It's a lot of great stuff, though. Just about any type of music you would want to find. I don't think it matters as much as I used to. That's why I moved here. But, Conor Oberst, this kid started Bright Eyes, in Nebraska? I think, Omaha, Nebraska. I don't really think it matters if your music is great. I mean, the first record deal I ever got, I was living with my parents in Huntington, West Virginia. How many people have been there? um, it is a great music scene. It definitely helps get national exposure, I think. But I think if your music is great, it doesn't matter. The drummer for the band, Matthew, and I started the band in 2000. I moved here. We started the band. We grew up together in West Virginia. We met each other in the 9th grade because we were dating the same girl at the same time and didn't know it. His church, she went to his church in my school. We've been playing together ever since then. The two of us just started writing pretty full force in the fall of '99, summer of 2000. Put a band together and had a really cheesy little 4-song demo that I passed a few of them out, and we luckily got a record deal, as it were, before all the songs were even finished. So we basically just took the first 12, 13 songs that we had even written into the studio and just kind of filled in the blanks, painted the picture, whatever. Pretty cool. Our manager at the time was Dennis Carlson, who used to be an intern at Rykodisc, which is the label, of course, that our first CD was on. He was an intern maybe 2 years before we got before anybody heard the music. Another intern, this is 2 years after Dennis had left, somehow got a hold of the CD and passed on it. And we got an official letter from Rykodisc that they had passed on us. And I used to live in Nashville. A lawyer that I'd never met somehow got a copy of this CD, sent it to George Howard, the president of Ryko at the time. And George saw Dennis Carlson's name on it, called Dennis up and said, "What is this? Who is this kid?" And then Dennis told him, "Well, we thought you guys had already passed on Matthew, and he hadn't even heard the CD, so then the rest is history." You feel like, well, I felt like, that there had to be those rules. So I grew up, my dad was a preacher. I grew up in church. I grew up around gospel music my whole life. So I'm singing about the things that I know at that point. Yeah, there's definitely, you get to know that if you say a certain thing on stage, or if you say a certain thing in a song, you're going to sell more records. You are playing to an audience that wants to hear a message more than they want to hear your music. It's a weird situation because you can be a terrible band and you can have a long career, a successful career, because a lot of people really aren't listening to this stuff for the music. They're listening to it for the message. And I really struggled with that a lot. That's ultimately why I left the Christian market, because I felt like I always played music because I love music, and I always felt like there was nothing wrong with playing music for music's sake. I got a little older. I started to really question religion, faith. I had a youth pastor tell me in Texas once, we were playing a really large Southern Baptist convention. He told me right before the show that there were a lot of parents at the show and youth leaders, so the more I talked about God on stage, the better. And that was maybe the first thing that I'm like, wait a minute, this is the combination of, well, when you mix your faith and commerce, it's just for me at least, I couldn't deal with that. There was another situation where we were asked to change some lyrics after a record was recorded, done, like I had to do the vocals, but it was mostly done. Lots of money had been spent, and the project was going to be pulled completely. kind of leverage, I was getting squeezed. If you don't change some lyrics and say Jesus and say God a little more, to a record that to me was already overtly Christian. This kind of stuff, I was like, man, this is not why I started singing. This is not why I started playing guitar. I don't need this kind of pressure, Faith is a very powerful thing, and to me it just needed to be separate, I think. I don't know that you really need to think about anything specifically. I guess you could think about whatever in the world you want to think about, because ultimately, to me, the most important thing is that you're just honest with your expression of whatever it is that you're thinking about. Whether it's a can of green beans or whatever it is you do, as long as you're honest with your representation of it, then it really is something purely coming from your senses, the way you perceive a thing. It's complete originality. And I think the worst thing you can do is try to fake it to please someone else. But I don't know. I think you can think about it, write about, read about anything. You got to put yourself in the situation. You got to hang out at the places where the people that are doing what you want to do, you got to hang out where they hang out. You got to be really determined. You got to, do some networking. And it sounds cheesy, but there are certain business principles that have lasted for thousands of years for a reason. Preparation and networking. Put yourself in front of people. It's branding. If nobody ever sees your face or hears your music, then nobody's ever going to see your face or hear your music. That's it. You just got to cold call, Pick up the phone, put press kits together, send stuff to clubs, or, play your high school dance, whatever. Somebody said something once in an article that I'll never forget. It was a Christian songwriter, and his name was Charlie Peacock. He's a super cool guy, really wise fellow, and he made a comment. He's like, one thing that I'm totally going to butcher this, but the gist of it was, one thing that I think is detrimental to anyone's career in any field is telling yourself, I deserve better. Because then you're automatically putting yourself above the necessity to work your butt off, You got to play the small shows. You got to pay your dues. That's how you make relationships. Work as hard as you possibly can. Be the best at what you do. You have to believe that you're the best, I think. If you don't, then what's going to get you through, It's easy to get depressed. It's really easy when things don't go your way. But if you don't believe that you're the best at what you do, and, it takes a ton of practice to get to that point where you feel like you can speak intelligently about what it is you do and explain it to someone else. It's a lot of hard work. I think anything in life that you really want to succeed at and that you care about is going to be a ton of hard work. But, and just to throw this in, after we got dropped from Rykodisc 3 years ago maybe, that was a big blow because I'd never been in a situation where I was dropped before from a label, and I really lost faith in myself. A lot of bad things followed for the following 3 years. I didn't work very much. I started drinking pretty heavily. Just a lot of bad things happened. And I really attribute all that to the fact that I lost faith in myself. A lot of this reading, a book I was telling you about, The War of Art, a friend suggested it to me. Absolutely, it's one of these books that from page 1, you just can't put it down to the end. And it was just like the kick that I needed, like a punch in the face. And I'm like, you know what? I think I realized for the first time, I've always thought that music for me was something I did just because it's fun or whatever, but if I wanted to or if I needed to, I could always go get a job as an attorney, or I could always do this or that to pay the bills. I think I realized that I really can't, that I probably would die if I wasn't making music. This is what I was put on this earth to do. And in fact, I had been dying for 3 years. And there's something about the process of working hard towards something that is what the reward is in the work, you know? Being on stage or selling 1 million records, that is a byproduct of hard work. But working hard is where the salvation is, I think, in the process. Yeah, man, I couldn't do anything else. I really don't think I could do anything else. And I think I probably will make records, if anybody's listening or not, until I'm dead. And I'm going to try to pay the bills doing it, you know? And I have hope. I think probably it'll happen again. For a while, I was able to eat by music, but whatever. I think I have hope.